Beyond being asked about pricing and how to do that, the next hottest topic is, what do I do when a customer brings me something they want embroidery done on? It's kind of funny how this works in the embroidery or apparel business, because we don't go to a restaurant with a raw steak and say, hey, I'd like this cooked medium rare and I'd also like a discount off the menu. That just doesn't happen in any other industry. But of course, the apparel decorating industry is kind of, it's going to happen. And we get to decide, do we want to do that or don't we? It comes with risks, obviously, and it also comes with possible profit loss. That's not why we're in business. It's your business, so you decide how you want to handle this situation. Some shops make it super simple and they just say, nope, not going to do it. If I can't replace it and you're bringing it to me, I'm just not going to do it. Sorry, go down the street. That's your choice. You may be saying no to a lot of decent profit, but do what's within your comfort zone, because if it really stresses you out to take on this type of work, don't do it. Now, if you're looking to take it on, here's some helpful things to think about before you get yourself into a situation that you're really wanting to run away from. How I approach it in my shop is I have a waiver that we have customers sign, and on that waiver we just write in the description exactly what it is that we're sewing on. So if it's a large black hooded sweatshirt, Carhartt, I write all that down with the idea that they can't negotiate later on what it was that was in our care. The next thing I do is make sure that the customer is well aware that if anything is to go wrong and the garment is destroyed, the design gets on there crooked, anything goes wrong, I am not going to refund or replace the garment. Now, what I won't do is I won't charge them for it, obviously. If something goes wrong, I'm just going to not charge anything and move on with life. I'm going to feel bad, of course, but they know the risk going into it. And I always tell them I will do everything I can to protect that nothing happens to this item, but if nothing ever happened, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Most of the time, my customers have a lot more faith in me than I do, and they sign happily. And luckily, I am okay with that because, of course, that's the route I've chosen to take. Another option besides the waiver, of course, is to just set a certain value amount that you say to the customer, look, if something goes horribly wrong, I will give you $25 for this item. I've basically bought the item from you for that amount. It can be whatever value you put on it, 50, 100, whatever you choose. But this instills a little bit of confidence on the customer side that you do really care and you're going to try everything you can to make sure nothing goes wrong. But it also gives them a value to put on that item. So if they say, well, this is grandma's, veil from her wedding day that we're trying to add a monogram to, and I'm just not willing to take that risk for $25, then you know that you need to say no to that project because you cannot guarantee that it's going to go perfectly. All right, now we've discussed how to handle whether or not to take it or not. Now what to do with it once you've said yes. Let's talk about that. There's a lot of good reasons to say yes to customers bringing you an item, such as heirloom items. They've switched companies and they have a very nice shirt that they want a new logo on. Say there's a handmade item. Well, that's kind of scary in itself, but let's be real. Those are places that people want embroidery done, and saying yes is a great way to make money because that's what you do, is put embroidery on things, right? But we need to make sure that it works for us, doesn't add stress, because we are taking the trouble out of embroidery. So let's talk about how to do just that. Because I would normally make a 30 to 50% margin on a garment I'm supplying, maybe your shop makes more than that even, I'm going to make sure that I'm not undercutting my wages that I'm paying my business basically by making sure to add in a reasonable margin for the profit that would generally be made on the item being supplied. So comparably, if they're bringing you a Carhartt sweatshirt, you would add in the value of margin, not the very cost of the good, but the margin you would normally make on it. So if the garment were, say, $20, you would take that times the 1.3, or 0.3 is going to give you just the margin. So $20 times 0.3, and that is your profit margin on that garment that you would generally make. So you can add that into your dollar per thousand stitches, or however you want to do it when you are sewing on something that is a customer supplied item. The next thing I do is I always come up with a plan B before I begin the project. This gives myself and my customer a little reassurance that no matter what happens, I've got their back. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that it goes smoothly, but if it doesn't, I'm going to say, what can we do? One of those options might be cover up a mistake. From my old scrapbooking days, I learned a few tricks. So if you make a mistake, you could applique over it. Maybe sew on a patch and then sew that on top of what you did wrong. Or if a hole got put in the garment, is that an option? So those are things to evaluate before you even begin, especially with an heirloom item. You could say to yourself, if this goes horribly wrong, customer, what are we going to do with this? Can we move to this, this, or this? Usually Murphy's Law comes into play when you don't have a plan. So by having a plan B, you're kind of setting yourself up for success. The next thing I always like to do is proceed with caution. So I'm going to make sure I'm not doing a customer supplied garment on a day when I'm frustrated, overworked, overtired, haven't eaten. It's 2 a.m. Those are times when I'm not going to do a customer supplied item. I'm going to do it when I'm fresh and alert and not interrupted by other things. I may do it when I don't have employees around or when the store isn't open, just to make sure all distractions are set aside. The next thing I'm going to do is definitely double check everything. Double check that your colors are in the right place, you've done your color sequence correctly, you've hooped it correctly, your orientation is correct. All of those details, go over it twice, 3 times, whatever. Make sure they're right. The next thing is slow your machine down. Work at a slower pace just to ensure that if something goes wrong, maybe you'll have an opportunity to get involved and fix it before it goes horribly wrong. Another thing I like to do is monitor the job while it's being produced. So once I've hit the go button, instead of walking away and doing other things, I'm going to actually stay present with the machine, watch it, make sure things are going smoothly, and check that everything is clear underneath. I'm not sewing it to itself or anything like that. These are the moments when things can go from great to bad to worse. And the second that I see something wrong, even if it's flagging or bouncing, I can slow the machine down or deal with that. But by walking away, you've now opened the gate for Murphy's Law to come in and slap you. So definitely, especially with those really, really important heirloom items, handmade items, make sure that they go smoothly. Those are my tips and tricks for creating embroidery on customer supplied garments. And if, like I said, if you decide that it is best for your business to simply say no, then do that. And as you're starting out, it might be wise to say no until you get that foundation of solid skill set so that you can confidently say yes. Say yes to as many profitable projects as you're comfortable with. Thank you for taking a moment today to spend with me to talk about this topic.